everyone, and welcome to the October 2017 update of the Power BI desktop. We have lots of exciting features to show you today, including one of the most anticipated features from the Data Insight Summit a few months ago, our bookmarking preview. Bookmarking is all around being able to save certain states of your reports, so if there are certain interesting insights you find through filtering, drilling, things like that, you're able to save that state of the report as a bookmark. And then you can either use those bookmarks to be able to go back and remember those interesting insights, or you can string them together to tell a story. And you can even use those bookmarks to create custom navigation in your reports as well. And tied to this bookmarking feature, we've also added two more related features, or a few more, including our selection pane, which lets you select visuals through this pane. It's very similar to the Office selection pane. And then you can do things like control the display setting of the visual, so hiding or showing the visual. And that can be saved as part of a bookmark. You can also link shapes and images to bookmarks to, as I said, create custom navigation. And we also have added a spotlighting feature that is another way to kind of call out one specific visual in your report, either in a bookmark or if you're just presenting a report in a meeting. So I'm going to show you each of these different features and how they can all work together to create some really interesting reports and help you show your insights to others as well. So as I mentioned, bookmarking is a preview feature, so the first time you want to do it, you'll have to enable it through our Options dialog. So you go to File, Options and Settings, Options, and in this dialog, you'll pick the Preview Features tab and select the box next to Bookmarks. And once you hit OK, you'll be asked to restart the Power BI desktop. And once you've done that, bookmarking should be enabled across all of your reports going forward. So once you've built out your report and you're ready to start finding insights or creating a story across your report, you can open the bookmark pane through the View Bookmarks pane option. And this pane will open up alongside your other panes in your report. Now I've already created several bookmarks in my report, but the first time you open it, it's going to be empty. You'll see a little splash screen and a link off to our documentation to help you get started. But all you'll need to do is start creating some interesting insights in your reports and clicking the Add button to add a bookmark. So for example, I could filter down to, say, Australia and Canada. And then if I think this is interesting and something I want to remember or share, I can click the Add button. And it will automatically add a bookmark to the bottom of my list, which I can of course rename. So, Canada and Australia sales. I can also do things like rearrange by clicking and dragging. So if I realize later I wanted this higher up in the list, I can just easily do that. I can also, through the ... menu, choose to delete it, or if I realize that I wanted to update this with something else, like I also wanted to include a date filter, I can change the filters and then just go directly to the update option and click update, and now that bookmark will point to this new state. Once you have a list of bookmarks, it's really easy to navigate between them. All you have to do is click on the name in the pane and you will automatically jump to that bookmark. So for example, this first bookmark of mine is with no filters applied, just the general overview of all of my data. So I just have to click it and you'll see the entire report loads with that setting. I can also jump to, for example, this bookmark to show just the last year of data in my report. And so by adding a whole bunch of bookmarks and stacking them up, I'm able to create a collection of interesting insights and easily navigate between them. Now is probably a good time to talk about the different things that can be saved as part of a bookmark. So you've already seen I've saved my slicer states. It will also save any of the filters you have in the filter pane. There are also a whole host of kind of interesting ways to call attention to specific visuals that can be saved. I call these the focus states. So you can save things like you're in focus mode as a bookmark. So for example, this bookmark opens up the table in the full screen focus mode. I can also do things like see data as part of this as well, if that was something you wanted to bookmark for a specific chart. We also added, as I mentioned at the start of this section, a feature called spotlighting that helps you call attention to one specific visual. This type of focus is accessible through the More Options menu for any given chart, and you'll be able to click Spotlight. What this does, as you can see, is it pales out all the other visuals. It doesn't full screen it, but it does, through paling out the other visuals and adding a little bit of a shadowing effect, call attention to this visual without disrupting all of the other charts around it. So you're able to maintain context while still focusing in. And this can be bookmarked, as I mentioned. You can also just use it if you are presenting your reports in a meeting and you really want to call attention to one chart. You're able to do that with this feature as well. You can also use different visual features as well. For example, sorting is savable through the bookmark state. So going back to my in focus mode for my table, if you look at the sales column, I can see right now it's sorted by the top sales, but then this other bookmark, same view, but sorted by the smallest sales. You can also save drill in bookmarks as well. So pay attention to this chart, and I'm going to drill into specifically computers. I've also spotlighted it to make it easier to see what visual is affected, and you can see right now I'm looking specifically at the computer's data point drilled in. The other thing that you can control through bookmarking is if you can actually see the visual or not. So another feature I mentioned earlier that we've added alongside bookmarking is our selection pane, which can also be found in the View tab. And when you open that pane, you'll see the list of all of your visuals on your report page. And you're able to select them through this menu. So you can see I selected the table, and here I selected the scatter chart. This is good actually just for general authoring of your reports, because sometimes, especially if you are cramming in a bunch of stuff on one page, it can get really hard to select some small visual or image or something on your report. This lets you easily select it. And then you, of course, start formatting it or changing filters or other configuration settings. The other thing you can do through this pane is actually, by clicking this eyeball, hide and show a given chart. And this state, if it's hidden or shown, can actually be bookmarked as well. And then this lets you create some really interesting things, like you're able to, for example, have an intro text box that only shows on the first bookmark but never anytime else. You can do things like have buttons that interchange what charts you're looking at on your report based off of these, if the bookmark is what bookmark is being viewed as well. So by bookmarking this feature, you're able to create some really interesting and dynamic reports. The other thing that you can do with bookmarks is you can actually tie a bookmark not only to the list on the page here, but also to shapes and images on your report. So for example, on my manufacturer's data page, I have this image here, and this image is actually tied to a bookmark. So if I go into the formatting pane for this, I can see there's this new link card. And this actually replaces the back button card that we had for drill through. And under this card, once you say you want a link, you have two options. You can either make it the back button that we added for drill through, so you can see this arrow is still tied to the back button. But you can also say I want it to be a link to a bookmark instead of the previous page. And then once you've done that, you're able to select which bookmark from the list you want to see tied to this image. And once you've done that, just like in for the back button, you can click on the image to trigger that bookmark. Whenever you're in editing mode, so always in desktop and on edit mode in the service, you have to control click to signify I actually want to trigger it. But once you're in reading mode, so anytime on the service without in reading mode, you'll be able to just click on the image and it will trigger that bookmark. So you can see what I've done here with this image is I've actually tied it to bookmarks that are hiding and showing charts. So right now I created a toggle and it's showing you the matrix right now. But if I control click it, it actually will show a different image and hide that one. This one shows the toggle switch to scatter, and also hide the matrix and show two different scatter charts. And so by tying bookmarks with hide and show and the linking of images, I'm able to create this interactive element in my report. As mentioned, you can also use these bookmarks to tell a story across your data, and to enable that, we have this view option in the pane. And what this does is it will start you from the beginning of all the bookmarks in your list and let you walk through each of those bookmarks in an experience kind of like the full screen mode in PowerPoint. It's not exactly that way because we still maintain our interactivity, but it does let you get a good view of all of your bookmarks. So I'm going to click view here, and you'll see I was now taken to the very first bookmark I was on, and I can see I have this navigation bar at the bottom. It has the title of the bookmark, it lets me know my placement, and I can use these arrows to navigate back and forth across my bookmarks. At this point, I don't need the pane anymore because I have this navigation, so I can close it and click through it. As you can see, it's kind of like a storytelling mode in a way. And while it's not quite that nice in a desktop application because we still have all of our Chrome and it's still an authoring environment, this can be really useful in the service whenever you want to tell a story or give a demo, things like that. So I'm actually at this point going to jump to the service and just show you in reading mode how your users could consume all of these different features. So as you can see, I've published my workbook up to the service in my bookmarking workspace, and now I can actually start viewing and using my bookmarks. Since bookmarking is in preview, to see the bookmarks pane option in the view tab, you will already have to have bookmarks in your report. You can't start from scratch in the service, but once you have at least one bookmark in your workbook and you've published it, from that point going forward, you'll be able to both view and edit your bookmarks in the service as well. This restriction will go away once we pull bookmarking out of preview, but like I said, once you do have at least one bookmark, everything is fully functional in the service as well. So as I am in reading mode right now, I can turn on the bookmarks pane. And while I can't add any new ones because I'm in reading mode, I can click this view option. And since I'm in the service, I also get to take advantage of the nice full screen mode that we have. And when I jump into full screen mode, I still get the nice title bar at the bottom to navigate through. So I can just click on the arrow for the title bar, not the arrows in the little hover menu, but in the title bar, and I can start navigating through. So I have my general overview, like I said, and now I filter down to just my last year of sales. I can focus on my scatter chart, and I've made the comment down here that cluster 3, these are the products that are in red. Those are the ones we're going to need to monitor because they have low satisfaction and low likelihood to purchase again. And then I can dig into my specific sales data and continue to go through each of my different bookmarks. And so you can see how you can tie all these bookmarks together to tell a really interesting story for your consumers without having to be there in person for them. And of course, you can also use this whenever you're presenting in a meeting and you need to do a report out of your reports. What's nice is even though you're in view mode, we still have all of the interactivity that you're used to. So if you can pre-create your story that you want to tell in your meeting, but if anyone asks a specific question, you can go in still and start doing all of your interactivity, filtering, things like that, to be able to drill in to the specific interesting insights that they're asking about. I'll also show you that button experience as well that I was mentioning earlier. So you can see when I switch to the manufacturer page, I have my toggle here, and since I'm in reading mode, all I have to do is click it, and I can switch between the two modes of my report page, one that shows the data as a scatter and one that shows it as a matrix. You can also use these linking of images, not just to create interactive buttons in your report, but also to create a whole navigation experience in your report if you wanted to. So for example, in my intro page, my report, what I've done is I have a bunch of different buttons of the different countries, the flags of the different countries I have in my data. And what I can do is I tied each of these to a bookmark that has the report filtered down to that specific region. So for example, if I click on the France flag, whenever I click on it, it would take me to that bookmark I had where my report was filtered down to France. And so I'm able to create this custom navigation that I can create a landing page, I can navigate between pages in specific ways, resulting in specific filters, and create these really interactive, almost app-like reports if I wanted to. And so hopefully you can see how different ways this bookmarking feature can be used in your reports. And you can, since it's in preview, we really want to hear your feedback. So as you start using bookmarking, you get a feel for it, and you find different creative ways to use these in your reports, make sure to give us that feedback. Let us know how you're using them and what features you want to see added. We definitely want to continue to add even more value to this feature as we get ready to release it as a GA available feature. The next two features on our list are scatter improvements. The first being that we've extended our marker functionality that we've already had on line charts to scatter and bubble charts as well. So this feature lets you change per category in your legend. You'll be able to change the shape of the marker from a circle to other shapes. This is really good for accessibility reasons, as well as just being able to be more creative with your reports, because then you don't have to rely just on color to differentiate the different data points. You can also use shape. So by combining this with a colorblind friendly palette, you're much more likely for a user who is colorblind to be able to differentiate between the different markers on each of the different categories on your chart. So I'll select the scatter chart and add net satisfaction and purchase again to the axis and product ID to the details bucket. And then I will add class to the legend. And now when I go into the formatting pane, in the shapes card, I'll be able to, in addition to being able to increase the size of the points if that's something I wanted to do, I can also change the marker shape. So by default, it's a circle, as it is today, but I can also switch it to a square, a diamond, and a triangle. And by default, it changes all of them, but I can use the Customize Series option to be able to differentiate a different marker per category. So I can leave Deluxe as a triangle, change Economy to a square, and switch Regular over back to the circle. And now you can see in both the chart and in the legend, my markers have updated. This feature also really works well with our filled point. So as you can see, all the different shapes are hollow right now because my fill point is off. But when fill point is on, they all fill in nicely. And so this opens up more freedom in terms of a design choice in your report, and also lets you, as I said earlier, make your reports even that much more accessible to all users. The other scatter feature is that we also now let you increase the number of data points the max number of data points that you can see in a scatter chart. So if you recall, we previously released a high density version of our scatter chart sampling algorithm that lets you make sure that you see the shape of your data in all your outliers. But if you also do just want to see even more data points, maybe to make sure that our algorithm works well, or just because you really do need them, you can now increase the data point limit from 3,500 all the way up until 10,000 data points in your scatter chart. So to do that, let me first switch over to putting country on my legend, because that should put me over the data point limit, as you can see. And I'm actually going to go real quick and put my shapes back onto a circle for everything. And now in the general card, I have this data volume slider, and it starts at our default limit of 3,500. And you can see up here that I am in fact sampling. And I can increase this slider from any data point from 3,500 all the way up to 10,000. So I'm just going to go all the way over. And you can see, if you watch closely, a few more data points did in fact pop up. Our sampling algorithm is really good, so you shouldn't notice anything too drastic. But switching back and forth between those, you should see points appear and disappear. And if your scatter chart does happen to have in that some number of points between these two, the sampling algorithm will of course no longer be applied, because you now can show all of your data points and the warning will go away. So if your chart had, say, 7,000 points, you would see all of them and the error message goes away. If you do want to take advantage of this feature, I would recommend making sure you test your charts on devices similar to how your consumer is going to use them. So, for example, if you share your report out with a CEO who only looks at his phone, try to test out the report on a cell phone as well to make sure that everything loads in an acceptable fashion. Since as you are loading more data points, things will be a little bit slower. You do want to check that to make sure it will be an acceptable performance level for your users as well. Next up are analytics features. And the first feature we have in this section is one that I know a lot of people have been waiting for quite some time. We now let you use our quick measures preview for reports live connected to AS models. One thing to note is that different quick measures have different requirements for DAX functions and operators. So depending on the version of AS you're using, you may see different quick measures in your list based off of if they're supported or not. But just by turning on the preview feature switch, you should just now automatically be able to use any available quick measures in your reports. This month, we are also adding a new quick measure to the list, sales from new customers. Now this tells you right up front what its most typical use case is, being able to track things like sales for new customers, but you can also track other measures as well, like how much support time are you spending on new customers versus overall, things like that. So let me show you that quick measure in action. So I'm going to create a line chart that is showing my sales over time. And I'll drill down into the month level. And now you can easily see, of course, simple line chart, sales amount over time. But if I also wanted to compare overall sales to sales just from new customers, which could be a good indicator of growth of my company, I can go into the quick measures dialog, and under the filters section, we have the new option, sales from new customers. So I'll select that, and for the customer ID field, I'll leave sales amount and order date as where they are. And for the customer ID field, I'll add my customer account number. Now this quick measure is called sales from new categories, but you don't have to put a sales amount here. You can put other measures as well. We just are iterating the common use case for this quick measure. And once I hit OK, We will automatically create that new quick measure for you. You can look at all the DAX that we're doing, mess with it, get an idea for how it works, tweak it as much as you want, and we automatically added it to the chart as well. And so now I can see overall how my sales are doing, and generally my new customer sales follows that trend as well, just at a lot lower of rate. And I can see that my new customers have been trailing near the end, and perhaps that's why sales overall is also being affected. So make sure to try out this new quick measure and let us know what quick measures you want us to add next. The last analytics feature we have is we now support cell level formatting for multidimensional AES models. So if you're connecting to a multidimensional model and you've already set up your cell level formatting in it, now without any extra effort from you, that will naturally flow through to Power BI, and you'll be able to start seeing that formatting being applied in tables, matrices, and single value cards. Under data connectivity, we have 2 new features. The first of which is a beta of the Vertica connector. So our Vertica connector can be found under Get Data in the Other tab, and it's right up top. And the Vertica analytics platform is frequently used in data warehouses and also in other big data workloads where speed, scalability, simplicity, and openness are critical to success. And you can use this connector in both import and direct query mode. Our second feature is an improvement to our SAP BW connector. Since we released this connector, one of the most commonly requested features has been the ability to import additional member properties besides the medium name. And now with this update, you can select them within the navigator dialog, just as you select anything else. And then those will be represented as new columns whenever you finish connecting to your data. Next up is something that we announced at Ignite. You can now download the Power BI desktop directly from the Windows Store. So instead of having to go to our website and clicking the download button or going to the Microsoft Download Center, you can also just search for Power BI Desktop in the store and you will be able to download it directly from here. And this comes with a couple of different benefits. One, automatic updates. You no longer need to track my blog and worry about, is the newest update out yet? Is it out? As soon as it's available, it will automatically be installed on your computer. You also, through the store, no longer need to have admin privileges to your machine. So it just becomes so much easier to get the desktop and always stay up to date. It also has smaller download sizes each month because it will only download the parts of the product that have actually changed. So you don't have to worry about having a massive download size every single month. It also checks your language every single time you launch it. And so you'll be able to, depending on what language you want to operate in, it will automatically detect that at launch time and use that language. So you don't have to worry about installing the appropriate desktop for the language you want to use. And lastly, it also just makes it so much easier for IT deployments of Power BI to be distributed. The last feature for this month is that we are making it even easier to access help content in Power BI. And we did this in 2 ways. One, you can now see in the desktop we have a new help ribbon. And whenever you click on this ribbon, you're able to access help content. So things like our guided learning tutorials, our training videos, all of our documentation, and also be able to tap into our community. So accessing the community galleries, including the data stories and the theming gallery. You can also go directly to our samples, and you have easy access to our blog. The other thing we did is we know how important it is for new users to be able to get started with the desktop really fast. So what we've done is for all new users, if you've already used the desktop, you shouldn't see this dialog. But for fresh, brand new installs of the Power BI desktop, you will be asked to fill out a form giving us things like your email address so that we can start sending you helpful content to get started with the desktop and learn about all of our newest features as well. It's a great way to get started and also start tapping into the awesome Power BI community that already exists. So that's all for this month. Make sure to try out all these great features and let us know what you think.